Volodymyr Zelensky managed a couple of jokes at the Munich Security Conference. The one was a joke about if there was a ceasefire requirement from the United States and in return the Ukrainians would hold an election. He was fine with that and offered the same terms to the dictator of Russia, Vladimir Putin. And the other one was that thanks to Ukraine's defense of Western Europe, Viktor Orban, the leader of Hungary, could continue to, in Zelensky's words, grow his belly and not have to grow his military. But it is the growing of the military capabilities that really has been the striking new energy that is coming out of the Munich Security Conference, because as the United States has turned away from European security, so the Europeans have had to understand that they were going to be responsible for their own. And the key pivot in this has been the position taken by Keir Starmer, who spelt out how a whole new dispensation really was coming from the United Kingdom, ending the old and much maligned so-called special relationship with the United States with a pivot to Europe. This is what he said.
We must be able to deter aggression. And yes, if necessary, we must be ready to fight, to do whatever it takes to protect our people, our values, and our way of life. And as Europe, we must stand on our own 2 feet.
Now, against that backdrop, Marco Rubio was in a more conciliatory tone than J.D. Vance, who last year was openly contemptuous of all things European, but he repeated the racist trope that Europe is being threatened with what he said was civilizational erasure. He did also concede that the same issue may be applying to the United States, and we've seen on the ground in the United States what that has meant under the Trump administration, with widespread ICE raids across the country, frequently violating the constitutional rights of ordinary people and resulting in the killings of innocent people. But in Europe, Rubio insisted that essentially that the Trump administration is still very bound into the cultural norms that prevail on this continent, but that the future of the continent's security remained bound in also with the politics of Trump.
And this is why we do not want allies to rationalize the broken status quo rather than reckon with what is necessary to fix it. For we in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline. We do not seek to separate, but to revitalize an old friendship and renew the greatest civilization in human history.
But at the end of the day, it was the Ukrainians who, for the 3rd or 4th year in succession, have had standing ovations as this war goes into its 5th year since the full-scale invasion, when Russian troops failed to take this city in Kyiv and then were driven back from their initial advances. And one of the prevailing messages coming out of the Europeans, and including the NATO Secretary General, is that the Ukrainians are not losing this war, and that Vladimir Putin needs to come under the kind of pressure that will force him to make serious concessions. And in the words of the Ukrainian president, so far, all of the concessions being demanded are coming from the invaded Ukrainians.